It's safe to say ukuthi Moses' purpose or life calling, the thing that this guy was born to do was to take the nation of the Israelites out from the land of Egypt into a land that God had promised them. So these people have been slaves for over 400 years. And then God says, okay, Moses, I am choosing you to lead these people out. And does Moses ever get to do that? Sure, but he never actually sees these people in the promised land because God takes his life before that, right? God kills him. Yeah, that's the word. God kills him. And but he was born for this. And why is God taking out Moses? Because they were in the wilderness for quite a long time. And as you know, there's no water sources in a desert. So what God would do is Moses had a staff, like a shepherd would have a staff, and he would hit a rock, and boom, here comes water. The children of Israelites have water to drink. And then there was this one time God said, okay, I don't want you hitting the rock this time. I want you to speak to the rock. And Umozisi, oh, by the way, guys, the frogs, the goats, the chickens, here, they have no video taking etiquette whatsoever. So they are my personal orchestra. Yeah. Okay, so where was I? Okay, so God this time says, no, I don't want you hitting the rock. I want you to speak to the rock. And Moses doesn't speak to the rock, he hits the rock instead. God, in his faithfulness, the water comes out. And here's the other thing, I'm digressing. Even when we are disobedient, God can still perform. God can still do what he did before when we were obedient. He can still do that same thing even when we have disobeyed. And why is that? God loves his kids. Israelites needed water. The person that you're praying for needs the healing. The people that you're counseling, they need to know that God lives and that God is true to his word, and God loves being believed. So he does what he said he would do. He fulfills his word. He backs up his word with power, with manifestation. But that doesn't mean that you are in good standing with him, because here we find Moses in direct disobedience to God, yet God still faithfully provides. So be very careful to equate people who you see the works and the fruits being there, and then you equate that person with being a righteous person, a person who is in good standing with God. It's not always the case. So in those situations, you have to use discernment, right? Okay, so God is upset. And this is what God says: because you did not trust in me to show my holiness before the eyes of Israel, therefore you shall not bring this assembly into the promised land. Because you did not trust me to show my faithfulness. That was the whole purpose behind God having him speak to the rock, because God wanted to showcase his holiness through whom? Through Moses. And Moses failed to do that. These people had already seen time and time again Moses hitting a rock and water coming out. And maybe somebody did not believe, but it happened too many times to not believe, right? But then this time God said, I'm going to do a different thing. I want him to speak to the rock, and I want to show these people my holiness, a new facet of my power, of my character. And so that was the goal behind it. And then Moses failed to do that. And in failing to obey God, he failed to showcase God's holiness before the Israelites. What is my point? God cares about how we represent him to people. Somebody's complaining. Okay, all is well. His data is not working properly. Okay, God cares about how we represent him before people, because it's cliche, we've heard it said a lot. People don't get the opportunity to see Jesus in physical form on a daily basis. People get to see Christ through us, which is true. And so, as his representative, he cares that he's represented well, because in our representation, people get to see him. People get to wonder about us. And when we have the opportunity to explain to them, why are we this way? Why we speak this certain way, why we continue to have joy when absolutely nothing in our circumstances um, warrants us having joy. We have the opportunity to say, I've got Jesus. So God cares how he's represented. And where am I going with that? This has been said a lot. I've heard a lot of this last year. And this is the quote: how I dress is between me and God. Is it true? Yes, but not entirely true. You are an influencer. You have taken a decision to stand in front of a people, whether you did that of your own accord or whether you did that because God chose you to do that. You have said yes to being in front of people, and you are deliberately and you are unapologetically telling people, Wuti, me, I am a representative of Jesus. And you, even though you may never say it directly like this, but in essence, you are saying, look to me, which is not an issue. That is the definition of an influencer. But even in the kingdom, God is never shy to say, look to your father Abraham. Paul is not shy to saying, look to me, follow my example, follow the example of the prophets, follow the example of the people of old. So God is not insecure in having us to look to other people who are ahead of us, to other people who have done well. That's why we have mentors. And so that's the position that you have taken, whether you acknowledge it or not, whether you see it this way or not. That's the position you have taken. When you take a camera like this and you post a video like this, and you're giving information to people and you are saying that you're representative of Christ. So yes, what you wear, what you say is between you and God, but it doesn't stop there. What you're saying and what you are wearing is representing the King. And God was so upset that Moses did not represent him well, that he was willing and he did cut off his destiny. This guy was born to see those people enter the promised land, yet he didn't see that, because that's how upset God was that he did not represent him well. That's how important it is to God, and why we are dealing with souls that he loves, that he died for. He does not take it lightly. So if you are gonna show us your boobs and show us your bum cracks, sure, you have the right to do that. However, if you are gonna be in front of people as a representative of Christ, saying what I do is just between me and God just doesn't cut it. And it doesn't cut it for the kingdom as well. It is not a good representation of the kingdom, because you are the light. We are looking to you. And somebody who loves you and admires you, you are giving them permission to do the same thing, my God. And then you are calling them into sin because of how you chose to represent yourself. And God says, if you cause these little ones to stumble, I am going to hold you accountable. And it is better for you to put a millstone around your neck and you toss yourself into the ocean. God says, that's better compared to what's going to happen to you if you cause his kids to stumble. So be careful, be mindful, um, work on the why, um, it is why it would be okay for us to see your legs above your knees, or for us to see half of your boob. You know, you can work with God on that, but let's not qualify it, let's not justify that, in front of a people that are looking at you, a people for whom you will be accountable one day before God, because you are working with souls that were bought at a very high and costly price. And that is why he says it is better that not all of you become teachers, or in this case, influencers, because you will be held to a much greater standard than everyone else. My doing this video and posting it, I am putting myself in a precarious position where I will be judged much stricter than the next person who chooses not to do this. So we are working with people that God has bought with a very precious price. Let us be very careful what we are saying and how we're choosing to show up before those people. Okay, bye-bye.